Alright, in this video, I'm going to give you an update of what's been going on with my wife and her battle with cancer. Well, about a week ago, my wife was having a little bit of trouble breathing. Well, we thought it was pneumonia because we talked to a doctor a few weeks before, said it looks like pneumonia, but her IV treatment for it, and then later when we went home and took some other antibiotics, it didn't work. She still started, was having trouble, and then she was saying, we need to go back. So we went back, and comes to find out that her issue is not receiving oxygen. That's what we thought we needed. She needs oxygen. So we had an oxygen dispenser at the house. We had tanks if we were going to go out. But that was only really half the issue. We didn't know about she needed to be able to fully release all the carbon dioxide. So her blood was getting saturated with carbon dioxide because her lungs weren't able to get rid of it, which would make her very drowsy and out of it and tired, and even, waking dreams or hallucinations. Nothing too serious on that, but when we went to the hospital, basically hoping that we were just going to drain some fluid and maybe get some different medication for what we thought was pneumonia. And that's not what happened. When they gave her something to relax, to do a CT scan, because she doesn't feel comfortable laying down, because she can't breathe too well, and she gets like a little bit of a panic attack. So they gave her a little something to relax her. And then when she came back from that, she was kind of out of it. And then they said, hey, we have to hurry up and drain the fluid from her lung right here in the ER. Something they don't like to do because of infections. But they did it anyway. So I understood that what was going on was serious. They were already talking about she's not getting rid of the CO2. I wasn't quite understanding what they were saying at the time. And after they drained out about 1.5 liters, she said stop. So, and I know she says that when she's getting drained because it hurts, and if she goes any further, she'll have pain for hours. So if she stops it when she starts to feel a certain feeling, she handles it pretty well. Afterwards, she's fine. She can even go eat and everything. She feels comfortable. Just a little bit of soreness. But then she lay down, and she immediately knocked out. They did give her a little bit of morphine to deal with doing the ER thoracentesis. Now, if I'd known that she wouldn't be conscious again, I would have done things differently. I would have said some things and let her know what is going on, because she would just been confused. And apparently her blood was just concentrated with CO2, so when she slept, she wasn't really waking up. You could yell her name and shake her and she wouldn't wake up. So they had to put her on this pressurized mask to try to help. And after being on that for an hour, it wasn't working. And they also gave her a certain thing, I can't remember what it's called, something with an N, in an IV to help flush out the sedative, the relaxer, and the morphine to help wake her up. So she was getting that plus the breathing thing, and she would only have brief instances. Like if you could get her to awake, she'll open her eyes, and you could ask her a question. She knew where she was, because if you said, "Where are you?" she would say, "Oh, I'm at the hospital." She even said the name of the hospital. So she was aware when she was conscious. She understood what was going on, but she couldn't stay conscious. So we got her up to an ICU room, and if I had known how fast they were going to act, I would have taken a second to try to get her to conscious and let her know what's going to happen. But you see, the scary thing is that in the ER, when she was starting to come out of her little trance, before she did the thoracentesis, so she received some kind of relaxer and went and did a CT scan, CTI or something like that. She was like really loopy, and when she started to come out of it, she couldn't talk, but she could mouth, and she was mouthing, "I have to go." And when she first said it, I was like, "What?" Because a fear came over me. Like she was telling me she has to go. She said it like 3 or 4 times, and I was like, "Where are you gonna go?" She says, "I gotta go to the bathroom." But something was telling me when she said that she was letting me know. There was a bunch of little signs like that, and they took her to the ICU. And if I'd known how fast they would act, I would have talked to her. But I didn't get a chance to talk to her. As soon as I agreed that they had to put the tube in her throat to get rid of the CO2, I asked them if it was temporary. They said yes. So I was like, "Okay, let's do this." And they acted like that. She fought against it and bit her lip. There was some blood, but they fought her and got it in. And it worked. It got the CO2 down. And while she was on it, they ended up hooking her up on a tube to drain the fluid out of the left side, which is weird. The fluid always built up on the right side, but this time the left side was filled up. Usually there's barely any fluid in the left side, but they drained it out, and that left lung, after a couple days, just wouldn't open. And it got to the point where the machine was assisting her with breathing, that the machine had to breathe for her, because it was the only way she could get rid of the carbon dioxide. And then was coming to realization that she would have to stay on that. If you wanted her to live, she would have to stay on that. So she was going to be unconscious. There was no real life to live. And it took me a while to really bring in reality, accept the situation, and then seeing some other things. I had to make a choice. It was on, I believe, Sunday morning. So I believe it was December 1st. They tried taking her down off the sedation so she could wake up. So they did that, not completely off the sedation, but enough where she fought to wake up. But her heart rate went to like 140. So it would be between like 135 and 145. It was pretty high. And I asked her if she was awake. She said yes. So you can hear me? Yes. You know where you are? Yes. So you know you're in the hospital? Yes. Are you in any pain? No. Are you okay? Yes. And she would hold my hand and look at me, but she was like very much out of it. You could see like she having trouble like focusing and kind of loopy. And after I asked these questions, all of a sudden she just kind of looked up, and then she lifted up her hand, and there was no lights on. She was looking kind of straight up, and she pointed up, And it was as if she was saying, hey, look. And I look up and I said, what do you see? She did a little circle, but she just kept staring up there. So I was like, you know what, I need to, something just said, videotape things. Usually I'm not that kind of person that takes pictures or videotape. I'm kind of experienced a moment. But I took out my phone, and while I'm holding her hand and talking to her, well, I'm letting her actually move her hand because she keeps pointing up and looking up, and her eyes are pretty much fixed on it. And when I ask her questions, she's not answering anymore. So I ask, do you see someone? Do you see something? She's just staring. She's just looking up. And when you're with somebody for years, you kind of understand like their body language. She kind of had this kind of look in her eye of like, just look for yourself, right? She was like pointing, and I kept asking her, what do you see? And she was just like, why don't you turn around and look? I was like kind of the vibe I was getting. And I was just like, obviously I didn't see anything. And then she waves while looking up and lowers her hand a bit and then looks back at me, and I think was able to answer a couple more yes or no questions, but they had to put the sedatives back up because her heart rate was going pretty crazy. And she went back under, and that was the last time she was conscious enough to actually open her eyes and really move and do anything. After that, the only real sign of consciousness was now and then she would move her hands around. Usually not too much. Sometimes she would lift one of them up and I'll hold her hand, or she'll lift them both up as if she wants to pull the tube out. Sometimes she lifts them both out to the side, like maybe just reaching out, see if anybody's there, or reaching out for a hug. And I know there's a couple of times where I was holding her hand and I let go to go do something, and her hand will move up, and I go grab her hand and I say, you want me to stay here? And she nodded yes. But after a while of being on that, she wasn't like responding yes or no questions or like at all. Her eyes weren't moving. And then it got to the point where she wasn't moving, but she would have this grimace on her face, this sadness. Like her sister and parents would visit, or I would talk to her, and she would just grimace and even start crying. Like there'd be tears building up that I'd have to wipe off. And I knew that even if she's not feeling physical pain, she's feeling emotional pain because everybody is coming and talking to her and trying to get her to have hope, and kind of also saying their goodbyes. But on that Sunday when I saw her wave, there was just like a peace that came over me that I think she's gonna go. There was still a glimmer of hope that I thought she could pull through, but I thought, I don't think she is. She was telling me she has to go. She was waving to somebody up there, and then when I saw her crying, I couldn't keep her like that. So I started talking to her family about, we're gonna have to do what they say and do palliative care. Just make her comfortable until she passes. And they say that most likely when we take her off of it, that she would pass. But there is a chance that she would start breathing and be able to bounce back. But they said don't count on that. It's very, very unlikely. It would be a miracle. And I was like, yeah, I'm hoping for a miracle. But I said they're not rushing us on this. So everybody was thinking, oh, let's wait a week or so. But then after I told them all, and she spent the night with her heart rate around 130. And every time I would see her, She would have a grimace, and she would be crying. If she had any movement at all. And I couldn't calm her down by talking to her. I just started telling her, "I'll be over soon. I'll be over soon." And I started messaging some of her family that night because I couldn't really sleep anyway, and telling them it has to be soon. And I even told them, if not today, then tomorrow, because I can't keep putting her through this, and I can't keep going through this with her. We have to try to remove it and either let her go or somehow she's going to bounce off of it, because the best way to do this is to take her off it sooner rather than later, because if she is going to be able to bounce back, it's while she still has some strength. So her sister came the next morning because she had questions that I answered about different things about trying to bring her back to consciousness. And I was like, yeah, we've done it, but her heart rate goes up. She can't sustain it for that long, and she's not really super conscious. Sometimes she doesn't even remember anything. Sometimes she does. But she had questions about, hey, can we like do settings on that machine to try to get her breathing on her own? And I was like, yeah, they've been doing that, but she's not doing it. And none of them are giving me any hope that she's gonna pull through. So we can't keep letting her suffer. And even while talking about it, you could see a grimace come on her face. It was like, see, she, even without the physical pain, she's feeling emotional pain. And she probably wants to talk to her. She probably wants to say so much, and she can't. So her sister was reluctantly going, well, let's get everybody here. So we did. And now it's starting to rain. It was raining all day yesterday. It doesn't rain too much in this part of Texas. But we ended up taking her off while we were all there after we all said goodbyes and everything, and because we didn't know how long she would last without it. They said it could be minutes, hours, sometimes it's days. And that's kind of scary, especially from how she was, where we removed it and we were just praying and talking to her saying, breathe, baby, breathe. And at first, she didn't, and her heart rate was going up, and then she gasped and started fighting for air. And then there was another point where she stopped, but then she started going, and her heart rate went up all the way eventually to 160, and her oxygen saturation at best went to 90. So we're like, hey, maybe she'll bounce out of this. At first it's like you're hoping, and then you realize she's not getting rid of the carbon dioxide. So she's not going to come to. She's not going to be conscious again. And every time we went and did tests with her lungs and looking for this cancer and what could be causing the fluid and all this stuff with her heart rate and breathing, they would always check her heart. They check her heart with like weird ultrasound like stuff. And all the tests they did on her heart, they're saying her heart is good, it's golden. There's nothing wrong with it. And her heart fought for hours. She fought for hours. And as she was fighting, we started to realize that she's just slowly going through it. As her oxygen saturation would drop, her heart rate was sustaining really high for a long time and eventually dropped to 150. Then after another hour or so, it dropped to 140. And then next thing you know, everything started sputtering. So we all gathered around and she had a sputter, and then she bounced back. Her heart rate stayed steady back at 140. Her oxygen went back up to into the 80s. We're like, wow. She just keeps on keeping on. And we played a song that she liked. We played it a bunch, and eventually, she gave up the ghost there. And this was yesterday afternoon. It was devastating. But, yeah, a long way to tell you that she didn't make it. So what I would say to anybody battling with cancer, especially if you've got stage 4, is you make your decision on what you're going to do and you stick to it. So if you start with chemo, don't stop. That's what we did. We started and then stopped. And I think when we stopped, it came back with a vengeance. And they even warn about once you're finished that the cancer comes back, it would come back stronger. So you got to make sure that it is gone before you stop. We didn't do that when we tried alternative stuff. And with the alternative stuff, we were trying a bunch of different things, but we weren't always consistent. And it was hard to get on her, especially in her condition, to be consistent. And there's a lot of times we had hopes, this is going to work, and then a lot of times we're just, I guess, in denial. We started thinking, hey, we can get back on the Ibrans. But they were telling us, no, she's too far gone, that if she started taking any kind of treatment for cancer, any traditional treatment for it, it would just kill her faster. So, we knew there was nothing at all we could do. So, some interesting things. On the way home, her sister is giving me a ride, and I don't know, halfway through the ride she turns on the radio, and the song that comes on is from a band she enjoyed growing up, Blink-182, and I knew she loved that band. And the song that was playing was I Miss You. And it was raining. And then afterwards was Creed, Take Me Higher. Take me to a place where the blind men see, where the streets are gold. So these things, I know where she is. I know she's okay. But I miss her so much. So, just making this video here to say it looks like I'm done with these videos. Maybe here and there I'll do something, but financially and everything, I'm gonna have to start selling some things and thinking about where I'm gonna move, what I'm gonna do. So outside of some kind of miracle, there shouldn't really be any more videos. I get some strange inspiration before I have to shut everything down and leave, you may be, but if you wanted to keep this channel going, you can try donations, but some people gave donations when they heard about all this and they helped out a lot. But I need something consistent, something really every month, or I'm getting something fairly consistency so that I can keep everything going. So if you want to do that, you can do that. I got a PayPal link on pretty much all my sites that I use to upload. So thank you for all the support you guys have been giving, all your prayers. Especially this last week, she was in there. There's a lot of people praying and giving their best. It just wasn't in God's plan, wasn't in His will. He got something else planned. I just, I don't know if it'll show up on the camera, but I found her little necklace that was made for her, or bracelet, I mean. I was cleaning up a little bit in the bathroom, and I was like, hey, I remember that. It says keep going. So for her, just keep on going, right? Hoping to maybe earn some rewards for her that I can give her. Bye.